It's the most powerful show on television. High drama with intense energy. A show dedicated to a few brave souls who risk their lives for the sake of their craft. Its in-depth reporting goes to the core and unlocks the mysteries behind today's raciest sport. Motorsports. Catch it when you can.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Post Tech. Today we move on to episode number 16 following a very fun weekend of racing at both Watkins Glen International for the Camping World Truck Series and the New Hampshire Motor Speedway Road Course for the stars of the Xfinity and Cup Series. But first of all, let's start off with the very big news. Will Rogers, you recall his horrifying tumble down the short chute between turns 5 and 6 at Watkins Glen. He will miss at least the next 2 weeks of Camping World Truck Series competition due to concussion-like symptoms and soreness stemming from that horrifying tumble. In particular, the impact that he suffered when Ty Majeski hit him in the driver's side door. Josh Berry, the NASCAR Xfinity Series winner already and NASCAR Weekly Racing Series champion from last season, has been tapped by Nice Motorsports to serve as the substitute for the next 2 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series races at both Mansfield and Michigan. Berry was initially scheduled for Memphis as well, but that is a triple truck challenge race, and drivers declared for NASCAR Xfinity Series points cannot compete in those events. So due to sponsorship from Filter Time, Nice Motorsports has tapped Blake Cook to run the number 40 truck at Memphis. Believe it or not, that's the racetrack that Cook started his first ever NASCAR Xfinity Series start as well back in 2009 at Memphis. Cook brings an awful lot of experience with him, and it should be a lot of fun seeing him in a well-funded truck for the first time. And hopefully after Memphis, Will Rogers will be able to return to that number 40 truck. Hopefully he will be healed up well enough to be cleared by NASCAR to run that truck. Michael Self appears to have secured the drive in the number 25 Rackley WAR truck for at least until the playoffs, so the remainder of the regular season. He has started to run fairly consistent in the top 15 pretty much every week of the last month, and there is still hope going off of his recent finishes that he could take home a victory in the next few races and secure a playoff spot. If he fails to make the playoffs, then the team will likely move to an all-star type deal where they have multiple drivers finishing out the season, multiple competitors running the number 25 truck. It's potentially possible Michael Self could run a couple more starts, but most likely the previously mentioned name for Michael's replacement was Mason Mingus, and potentially a NASCAR Xfinity Series driver could run that number 25 truck for the first 9 races of the playoffs, because Xfinity competitors are allowed to compete in the first 9 races of the playoffs. They're only not allowed to compete in the Triple Truck Challenge races, the final race of the regular season, and the final race of the season, so the championship race at Atlanta. So it still leaves open the opportunity for a team like Rackley WAR to put an Xfinity Series driver in the seat. However, I think that it's going to be a more ARCA-style driver. Maybe they put Corey Heim in that 25 truck for a couple races if Michael doesn't make the playoffs, something like that. I don't exactly think that they would need to bring an Xfinity Series driver in, because Venturini, with their alliance with Rackley WAR, brings a whole lot of talent into that team. Not just Michael Self, but plenty other drivers who are lined up who could potentially run a couple races in that truck, and I expect big things from that organization, especially since they have started to put together some relatively decent finishes. In fact, they got 3rd at Kansas Speedway and had a shot at winning in the double overtime there. So they really have started to find the pace to get the job done. Will Michael Self return to that truck next year? It really all depends on whether or not they make the playoffs, or if they get, say, like a top 10 in final season standings. So I kind of doubt that Michael's going to be back in that truck next season. I think he's going to go back to ARCA. Venturini's still going to bring him in with open arms because of their previous success, but I think that Michael this year is focusing on trying to get that 25 truck into the playoffs. If that mission fails, he'll start to redirect his focus back towards ARCA for the final 10 races of this season. So that's going to be more or less Michael's plan moving forward. If the whole truck deal falls apart, go back to what he's, I guess, more comfortable with and best at. He could become this generation's Frank Kimmel, I guess you could say. So that would be at least a good thing for the ARCA Menard series. You know what? How about Scott Lagasse Jr.? It took him 16 years of work. Went into last Friday afternoon at Watkins Glen International, and he finally took home his first career NASCAR Camping World Truck Series victory. He was a development driver for Chip Ganassi Racing so many years ago, ran for Bobby Hamilton in the Truck Series, that 04 and 4 truck, and he finally takes home the win in the 03 for On Point, a part-time truck, believe it or not, and he scores the victory in somewhat dominating fashion. It wasn't exactly controversial, but he did make contact with Will Rogers, which is what sent Rogers into that tumble, and in my opinion, Rogers had the better truck. But, you can't blame him on that. That was just a racing situation. But I think that Will Rogers would have at least put up a fantastic fight to the driver of the number 03 truck had Rogers stayed in the race. On Point actually finished first and ninth with their two trucks, so a double top 10 for that organization. Currently, they do not plan on running Legassi Jr. full-time to try and finish out the year and make the playoffs because he's way too far out of contention of making a top 30 position. However, this is still a monumental win for this organization. It's their first career Truck Series victory as a team. They already won the Geico 500 in the NASCAR Cup Series in the spring with Brennan Poole, and their current focus is on making the Camping World Truck Series playoffs with Brennan Poole in the number 30 truck. Scott Legassi Jr. is still going to drive the 03 truck at the remaining super speedways and road courses, while Danny Bone is going to handle the driving duties at short tracks primarily from his wheel and modified tour background. He's a great short track racer, so they're going to keep that 03 truck in circulation of their competitors. But it's a great sign for Scott Legassi. I bet you his phone is probably ringing off the hook right now, probably getting called by names like Joe Gibbs or somebody to run Xfinity Star on a road course, maybe something like that. And Brendan Poole and that whole organization is going to put probably some of the funding that they got from the 03 truck taking home that victory, putting it into the 30 truck to try and make the playoffs with Brendan Poole, because we got a couple races coming up that Brendan could in fact win, because that team has started to run up front consistently. In my opinion, my best bet would be on Daytona, the final race of the regular season, going off of Brendan Poole's great successes at super speedway racing. He's a fantastic drafter. So my money would be on Brendan Poole winning at Daytona and getting that kind of Game 7 moment and locking himself into the playoffs. But still, great organization right now. They're starting to run up front. I expect big things from On Point Motorsports into the future, and odds are Scott Legassi Jr. and that 03 truck will land a sponsor fairly soon going off of their success, and it might just be Marcus Lemonis to deliver it to them. Watkins Glen International will be taking on slight improvements to the track before the NASCAR Cup Series arrives, mainly just adding more safer barrier coverage in wake of Will Rogers' crash. Obviously, those Armco barriers deform in such a way that it kind of hurls the car back into the way of traffic, and it can also flip a race car over. We saw that with Steve Park at Pocono back in 2002. Them Armcos are not exactly the safest thing. We saw Romain Grosjean, even though that kind of wreck could not happen in our stock cars because we'd go through the Armco would just go straight through and hit some camper somewhere like Mark Martin almost did at Talladega. But them Armco barriers are bad news in my opinion. They were good years and years ago. They're okay now, but I think that they should be behind something like a tire barrier. If it's like a tire barrier and then an Armco, I'm fine with it. I just have a big beef against these Armco barriers. I have not seen too many good things come out of them, and I think we've kind of moved beyond them anyway. It's also likely that NASCAR and ISC will be utilizing the chicaneless layout of Watkins Glen International for the Go Bowling at the Glen, the first time that the Cup Series will use this layout since the 1991 season, and it's all thanks to the beach runoff area out of Turn 5 that they added this year over the off-season and into the spring months, working on that segment of the racetrack. I'm really not sure why we didn't have a very large runoff area like that in the past, to be honest with you. I don't know why we just kind of put a Band-Aid over it by having the chicane. It's a fun layout with a chicane, but it doesn't fix the primary problem. Because guess what? If you have, say, throttle hangs down the back straightaway, that chicane ain't going to help you slow down. I hate to break it to you, but you're still going to go off and hit the wall dead straight almost because your throttle hung. You got to hit the kill switch in the modern-day cars, but it really is just a Band-Aid to kind of help the problem. So I really applaud ISC for putting in the effort to put in a drag racing style beach area for our race cars, because those beaches that they have at drag strips can slow down out of control race cars at 330 miles an hour, and I'm not even making that up. So we can certainly slow down a car going 190, because that's more or less the highest you could get down into Turn 5. So it's a great move by NASCAR and ISC to put that beach area in. On the NASCAR Cup Series side of things, Chase Elliott absolutely dominated the ISM Connect 300, taking home his 7th career NASCAR Cup Series victory and 2nd win of the 2021 season. The number 9 team did not make the playoffs last year. They did win a race in the playoffs, though, at Michigan, and they finished 27th in final season point standings. But this season, they are solidly locked in to the playoffs with their 2 wins this season at both Nashville and now at New Hampshire, and they're trying to score Hendrick Motorsports its first championship 4 spot since 2016 with Jimmy Johnson, when Johnson went on to win his record-tying 7th title. Now, in my opinion, I think that Chase Elliott kind of got off a little bit easy in that race because Scott McLaughlin blew that engine, and Jan Magnussen had early race trouble. I'm not going to say that Chase Elliott couldn't have won that race because he had the absolute best car. He proved that in qualifying, but I think it would have been a little bit better of a battle had those 2 cars stayed in the race. But still an awesome performance by Chase Elliott and company to take advantage of those mistakes. That's what really makes for a championship-winning organization, is taking advantage of any of these organizations who falter in one way or another, staying consistent and scoring those victories. So they capitalized on that, and it was a great performance by the number 9 team. On the other hand, at Hendrick Motorsports, we have William Byron, who had some great momentum coming into the ISM Connect 300, mainly from his 4th place finish on the oval at New Hampshire just 1 week prior. However, Byron did not make the field in qualifying, which is a huge blow for their organization. They still set 27th in regular season points. They have to win to make it in at this point. And so far, Byron has not won a race in his Cup Series career, so it's a bit of a tall task to be in this must-win scenario and have never won before. But it looks like they're put into this box right now that they have to win to make it out. And currently, they're going to need a miracle if they want to make the playoffs any other way. Fugel and Byron have shown real potential this season. The only problem is it looks like this could be their only season together at that number 24 team because Byron's in a contract year and is yet to be re-signed. Byron has actually never made the playoffs either in his 4 years in the NASCAR Cup Series, so you might have to expect Byron somewhere else in 2022 if they do not, say, make the playoffs or show exceptional speed in the playoffs. Say they miss it, but then they win like 2 races. That would be, in my opinion, the only way that Byron would get a definite re-sign for next season, because there's quite a bit of talent that Rick Hendrick is eyeballing right now for that seat. Eric Jones, as well, failed to make the ISM Connect 300, and they now set just 10 points above the cutoff line for the top 16 in that number 37 for JTG Doherty Racing. However, the points battle is extremely close right now. Eric Jones sets 13th in regular season points, but is only 101 points back from the leader, Kevin Harvick. So one slip up out of any of the contenders up in front of him, and Eric Jones could leapfrog quite a few spots and be right back up into contention. Also, one more note about Hendrick Motorsports. Jeff Gordon recently has become vice chairman of their organization. Having that much knowledge, 90-plus wins, 4 Cup Series titles within their organization in a leadership position might be very beneficial for their success in the long run. Not to mention that they already have Chad Knaus essentially managing all 4 of their teams. Now having Jeff Gordon in a leadership position ought to be a pretty strong duo, to say the very least. It will especially help in a time like now where the team is slightly dysfunctional. Think about it. Chase Elliott, running up front most of the time. He's got 2 wins on the season. Alex Bowman, Brad Keselowski, barely top 15 cars. William Byron, pretty much running as a back marker. He finishes in the 30s most of the time, or DNQs the other. He has scored a couple top 5s and top 10s this season, which has been a great performance. Should have won Kansas, but they're not getting the finishes. And so the team is just not exactly gelling right now, all 4 of their cars. Fugel and Byron got a great relationship going. If Byron leaves this year, I think Fugel's going to leave with him. But right now, the organization as a whole, all 4 teams are just not working together the way they need to. They need to find success with all of their cars, and the addition of Gordon might just be what they need. And also, to change the subject off of Hendrick Motorsports, Anthony Alfredo, how about the performance he got in that 38 car? 2nd place at Loudon. A fantastic performance for Front Row Motorsports. He won at Sonoma, finishes 2nd at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway road course. He might be our next road course king. Maybe surpassing Jeff Gordon if he gets a successful organization next season. Maybe he impresses enough team owners that he starts to get, say, maybe a Penske deal or something like that in that O2 car. If he goes, part-time, say they don't have the funding to run 2 cars at Front Row Motorsports, I'd love to see Anthony Alfredo maybe get a well-prepared race car, not to discredit what they do at Front Row Motorsports, but they don't quite have the funding to prepare a top-tier car. So I'd kind of love to see Alfredo if he gave him, say a Hendrick car. Chase Elliott dominated at Loudon. Anthony Alfredo finished second. Hendrick just barely outran, well, not just barely, it was 7.5 seconds at the line, but Hendrick outran Front Row Motorsports. What if you had a talent like Alfredo who's doing that much at FRM in a Hendrick car? Now, that would be something special, and maybe Alfredo could be a potential candidate for that 24 car if everything falls apart with William Byron as we approach the playoffs. It'd be interesting to see who the number one candidate for that 24 car is. Remember years ago when everybody would say so-and-so to the 5? Well, now it's going to be so-and-so to the 24, I personally believe. Also, speaking about free agency, Martin Truex Jr. is currently 7th in regular season point standings in that 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. It looks like JGR is going to make an official contract extension announcement at Daytona in August, as it seems that they have a press conference scheduled before the Coke Zero Sugar 400. And it would make an awful lot of sense to re-sign Truex. There were some doubts beginning the season that Truex might not be back in that 19 car next season. However, Truex has started to bring together the consistency to drive his way up through the point standings, now to 7th. Even though he has not won at a track not named Dover since 2019, and it was the middle of the year in 2019, still, there's a lot of hope for Martin Truex Jr. that he could potentially even take home a championship this season. Being 7th in points right now, he's going to have a great spot once the playoffs begin, and he has to not do what happened in 2019 and choke it in the first round. As you recall, he entered that race on top of the point standings, first race of the playoffs 2019, on top of the point standings. He leaves Bristol eliminated. So they can't have a gigantic mistake like that ever again, because the whole team more or less fell on its face in the final few races of the season, because they had 6 wins coming into that. They had a tremendous amount of playoff points coming into the first round of the playoffs, and it all just disappeared in that first round. So if Martin Truex Jr. can keep this consistency going, he might not need to win at a track not named Dover to keep that number 19 car. Although you do have to wonder when Truex may decide to call his career, because, he is in his 40s now. Most drivers retire around this time. Truex is at the end of a contract right now. Maybe it's a 1-year deal for next year, something like that. Maybe give Truex a sayonara season so they can put, say, Ty Gibbs or somebody in the car for 2023. Maybe something like that could potentially happen, because it looks like next year we're going to get rid of the 4-car limit because, we don't have provisionals or anything like that, so you're taking the risk all the way anyway. So it looks like it could be a potential option to keep Truex in that 19 car for another year, raise Ty Gibbs with a couple cup starts in a 5th car or 4th car, depending on what Kyle Busch does if he goes full Lone Ranger, and get Ty Gibbs that experience, maybe replace Truex or something like that could potentially happen. So Truex, you got to keep your eyes on him. We don't know his future exactly. Might be just a short extension on his contract, but it looks like he will at least be secure in that 19 car for 2022 to run with the next-gen car. Kaz Grala currently sets 26th in regular season points in that 50 car for RCR. He's only 15 points above 30th. So if he has any more issues in the final few races before the playoffs, it's entirely possible he could fall outside of that top 30 and not be eligible for the playoffs, even with his win at Kansas. 38th to 26th in points right now are separated by just 47 points. That's just a little bit over one race. Barely over one race. So we could have a tremendous battle on our hands between Alfredo, Bilicki, Harrison Burton, Jan Magnussen, and Kaz Grala for the final few transfer spots based on wins. Because right now only Grala is the one above that top 30 line. Bilicki, Alfredo, Burton, and Magnussen are below it right now, and they can climb their way back in, so it's going to be a tremendously tight battle between those 5 competitors for those final few transfer spots based on wins coming into Daytona. It's going to be a lot of fun to track that top 30 position. We have the regular season championship, the top 16 battlers, and then the top 30 battlers. Got so much action going on all throughout the field. It's remarkable this season how competitive it really is. We have a little bit less different, unique winners than we did last season, but it's a phenomenal year so far when you look at the back and forth that we've seen in points. Ryan Newman, that 6 car for Roush Fenway Racing, has started to climb his way up the regular season point standings. He currently sets 20th in points and is 139 points off of point leader Kevin Harvick. And he may be a potential contender for a top 16 playoff spot once we get to Daytona. You have to keep your eyes on him. And also his teammate Chris Buescher has started to make his way up through the standings as well. He currently sets 25th. So a relatively good season for Roush Fenway Racing so far. Maybe they can continue that success and potentially pull off a top 20 points finish for both cars coming into likely a transitional season next year with that whole next-gen car and, where's Newman going, all that sort of stuff. Will the team downsize? all those kind of talks are continuing as we speak. The future of Chip Ganassi Racing has recently come into question, with several rumors of a sale coming out. Potential rumored buyers of all of Chip Ganassi Racing's NASCAR assets include Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Maurice Gallagher, owners of Junior Motorsports in the NASCAR Xfinity Series and GMS Racing in the Camping World Trucks and NASCAR Cup Series already. Ganassi currently fields 3 full-time entries with Justin Allgaier, Kurt Busch, and Quinn Half as his drivers. He also occasionally runs a 4th entry for Jimmy Johnson, who recently finished 2nd in the Yard of Bricks in the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Remarkable performance there, even though Johnson did not lead a single lap in that race. He came within just a couple feet of winning it. So if Ganassi sells off his whole organization, his whole Cup team, not the IndyCar and IMSA programs, but if he sells off all his Cup Series equipment and stuff like that, you really have to wonder where the drivers would go. Because in particular, Justin Allgaier and Quinn Half are both signed to multi-year deals at that organization. Kurt Busch is in a contract year and was likely going to move on from Ganassi anyways after this season, so not really that much of a big deal there. But this would be monumental if one of our more powerhouse-level organizations sold off. It really makes you wonder where Jimmy Johnson's going to go in particular, because he has shown great interest in returning to NASCAR at the Cup level on a full-time basis after a disappointing run in IndyCar so far for Chip's number 48 car. Not to mention that Johnson showed race-winning pace in both really the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in his 2 Cup Series starts he's ran this year in the number 92 Carvana Chevrolet. He has the opportunity to move back to the Cup Series if Chip does not sell off his organization. But if Ganassi does sell his team, Johnson might look elsewhere and break off his contract with Chip Ganassi early. So that'd be a huge story if Jimmy Johnson looks elsewhere to drive once again in the NASCAR Cup Series. For all we know, Johnson could go back to Hendrick Motorsports to drive the 24. You know, we don't know how this is going to work out so far. If Chip Ganassi sells off his Cup Series organization, this is going to be huge for our sport because they are practically a 4-car team. We really do not see situations like this. Normally it's a 1-car or 2-car team selling off. You know, recently we had Germain go down to the Truck Series for full-time operations, so they shut down most of their Cup Series operations. We had Furniture Row Racing. They shut down their 78 car. That was a 1-car deal. This is 3 full-time cars and a part-time car, so this would be huge if this does in fact happen. And especially for, say, a person like Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's been looking to try and get into the NASCAR Cup Series ownership market. He's owned Justin Allgaier in the Xfinity Series. If he buys Chip Ganassi's assets and his program out, he would actually get Justin Allgaier back. So maybe that would be an interesting method. Maybe run Allgaier and Quinn Half, plus, say, Josh Berry, or one of his other protégés, in a full-time Cup Series operation. It'd be interesting. And also, if Earnhardt Jr. does buy this organization, he would buy out the rights to the number 1 car. Think about that. It would loop straight back to DEI. That is something to think about if Earnhardt Jr. really does buy this organization. But it would be a little bit surprising if Chip Ganassi Racing does have to fully sell off their whole team. There's also one more very prominent rumor. It's that Brad Keselowski may buy out the number 88 car at Hendrick Motorsports that he currently runs full-time and run it himself under the Brad Keselowski Racing banner, with Hendrick Motorsports supplying the equipment. Think of this like Darwall Incorporated. You remember Darrell Waltrip's Cup Series organization, the Western Auto number 17 car. He drove for Rick Hendrick in the 17 Tide Chevrolet and then bought out that car to run it on his own in the Darwall shop. It would be the same exact situation for Brad Keselowski. With his savvy business skills, he might be able to build up a strong team by himself while still working in association with Rick Hendrick as a developmental organization as well in the Truck Series. So building up both organizations at the same time, it might be an interesting way to have another satellite team for Rick, especially if Chip Ganassi Racing goes away. It'd be a good opportunity for him to have Brad Keselowski run some of his equipment in the Cup Series level. You know, they have 4 cars, essentially, Chip Ganassi does. He runs almost on a full-time basis. And all that equipment more or less comes from Mr. H. So that's going to be a huge kind of void in the Hendrick Motorsports area with all those cars going away. So more teams might show up to take advantage of an alliance if Chip Ganassi Racing's team does in fact fold. Brad Keselowski Racing could be just one of them. JRM, if they go up to the Cup level, buying out some of Ganassi's assets could be a way to do it. You know, spread that Hendrick influence. And at the same time, GMS could tighten their relationships with Hendrick if needed as well. There's also rumors recently about Spire and Kaulig breaking their alliance with each other for next season, going on their separate ways. We'll see how that goes as well. Not too much news about that so far, but it does look like Matt Kaulig might want to go Lone Ranger as well and run his cars by himself out of the Kaulig Racing shop because of how inexpensive this next-gen car is. The current Gen 6 car is almost twice as expensive as this next-gen car is expected to be. To put it simply, this next-gen car is like a spec Trans Am 2 car. It's more like that as compared to the whole engineering side of things that we have in the Cup Series, all the expenses that it takes to run a Cup Series program. It's tremendous currently. But this next-gen car might make a lot more independent owners show up. The market is wide open, and we may have a record-setting entry list at Daytona at February. I might just say that because the car is getting very inexpensive, and I would say that we have a tremendous amount of interest from new owners and new people trying to break their way into the sport, and this is more or less their prime opportunity. With a brand-new race car, everybody's got a blank sheet of paper right in front of them, and that's how you build up your organization. Everyone's starting from ground zero, whether it be a brand-new team or Hendrick Motorsports itself, something like that. Everybody starting from ground zero. So it's a great reset, I guess you could say, for the sport, and the cost is going to go down. We're going to get more manufacturer relevancy. A lot of things to look forward to as we progress into 2022 and even farther beyond when we start to see new engine programs. But there's still quite a bit to look forward to, especially next season at Daytona. I'm excited to see how many cars really do show up for that thing, because we know that we're going to have our 4 cars. But beyond that, there should be definitely close to 65 or so, because we had 64 this season. We might just get up to around 67 or so like we had at Daytona back in 2007. So it's going to be a fun one in February next season. It's going to be hard to get all 4 of our cars in the show because every year it gets more and more competitive, but it's going to be a tremendous amount of fun. And I think pretty much everyone's going to adore next season's competition in that regard, because it's going to level the playing field so much. You know, it's going to bring in so many new teams, so much more competition. It's going to level the playing field all along with it. So even though this season we've had a little bit less unique winners, next season we might just go and break the record of 24 that we set back in 2020. So there's a whole lot of new elements of our sport to look forward to into the future. Right now, looks like Mars is going to continue the sponsorship of Kyle Busch, but only once the playoffs begin. Until then, Rowdy Energy will hold primary sponsorship of that number 18 car. Odds are Interstate Batteries is also going to be on that Toyota for a couple races as well. Kyle himself has mentioned that earlier in the season he was sort of getting in his own way, and that now he is more or less laser-focused on winning a championship, his 3rd Cup Series title, and trying to defend his honors from last season. As you recall, back in 2019, he came 1 spot for making the championship 4 in Martinsville. Got beat out by Matt DiBenedetto in that race. That was an absolutely popular victory, by the way, because Matt DiBenedetto kept Kyle Busch out of making the championship 4, and in turn scored DiBenedetto his first career victory. The grandstands felt like they were going to fall over that night because of how much the fans were just loving that. But Kyle Busch almost won the 2019 championship when you think about it, because I'm sure he would have been very strong at Phoenix had he made the championship 4. He won the title in 2020. An amazing performance at Atlanta last season, wrecking 3 times and still winning the championship, and this year he is just as focused as ever. But you recall earlier in the season, had that run in at Fontana that kind of carried for a while with Clint Boyer. That wasn't helping either driver. Then he gets into that incident with Ryan Unziker. You know, that hurt more or less everyone's opinion of him. So right now, coming off that win at Loudon, Kyle Busch appears to be laser-focused on the championship, and that's exactly what he needs to do to progress his career, because it was looking for a while there he might be getting a release from Joe Gibbs Racing. However, we don't know whether or not he might go to his own organization next year, stay within the Toyota camp, but say open up KBM on a Cup Series level because of how inexpensive this next-gen car is going to be. That is still a completely new option for Kyle Busch to explore. He has not really mentioned it that much so far, but he could go and do that for next season. So we'll have to keep our eyes on Kyle Busch, but right now his focus is on the 2021 Cup Series Championship, trying to I guess, leave this Generation 6 car on top with 2 consecutive titles. Also, tune in next week on Post Tech for a special announcement regarding our Starcom Speed Station number 53 car and the whole organization along with it. By the way, the track preparation at Mansfield has gone fantastically, and I might have had just a little bit too much fun running our Camping World test truck there as well. Maybe getting a little bit too aggressive with the setups and having to keep that truck out of getting up into the wall because of how aggressive we got with it. And so now, after just a quick break, we'll be back to give the highlights of the Chevrolet Accessories 200 from Mansfield Motorsports Park. In the race analysis, the Chevrolet Accessories 200 from Mansfield Motorsports Park will take place over the course of 200 laps around the .444-mile oval here in Ohio, with stage number 1 ending on lap 50 and stage 2 coming to its conclusion on lap 100. Keep in mind that we have 4 Cup Series ringers in the field, those being Chase Briscoe, Ryan Newman, Brandon Jones, and Justin Haley, who are running this race for experience for the NASCAR Cup Series event, so they are certainly going to be forces to be reckoned with. In the regular season point standings coming into today's event, Matt Crafton still holds the point lead by just 8 points above the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed. Then Ben Rhodes is still third in points, 32 points out of the lead. Ty Gibbs fourth, 49 points out. Christian Eckes in fifth, 56 points out of the lead. Grant Enfinger in sixth, 59 points out of the point lead. Casey Mears in seventh, 68 points out. Dawson Cram in eighth position, 77 points out of the lead. Parker Kligerman, ninth in regular season points, 84 points out of the point lead, and Ryan Truex rounding out your top 10, 87 points out of the point lead in that 33 truck. In your playoff standings, Matt Crafton, Ben Rhodes, Christian Eckes, Austin Hill, Sheldon Creed, Ty Gibbs, Grant Enfinger, Casey Mears, Ryan Truex, and Stuart Friesen are all locked into the playoffs via their wins so far this season. Dawson Cram still sits best of the rest, 45 points above the cutoff line. Then Parker Kligerman sets 38 points above the cutoff line. Ty Dillon, 34 above. Timothy Peters and Austin Terrio, both 22 points above the cut line, and Brett Holmes just 7 points above. Then John Hunter Nemechek, 7 points on the outside looking in that Ford truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports. Brennan Poole sets 12 points out of making the playoffs, and Ty Majeski and Zane Smith both set 36 points out of the playoffs. Chase Briscoe, the Cup Series ringer and 2-time winner on the Cup Series circuit this season, qualifies that 53 RCA Chevrolet on the pole spot here at Mansfield. Outside him is the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland. Third position was taken by the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen. Ryan Newman qualified the number 39 truck for DCC Racing in fourth spot. Josh Berry, in a substitute role for Will Rogers, qualified the 40 truck in 10th position. Second in points coming into this race, the number 2 truck of Sheldon Creed qualified in 12th. Ben Rhodes qualified the number 99 truck for Thor Sport in 18th position. Jake Finch qualified the 5 truck for Phoenix Racing in 19th spot. Cup Series ringer Brandon Jones qualified the 51 truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports in 21st position. Sam Mayer qualified for Tony Stewart Racing in 22nd. Justin Haley qualified the number 24 truck for GMS Racing in 24th position. Taylor Gray qualified the 17 truck for LGR in 30th position. Danny Bone qualified the 03 truck for On Point Motorsports out in 31st spot. Jet Noland qualified the 45 truck for Nice Motorsports down in 33rd. Max McLaughlin qualified the 61 for Hattori Racing Enterprises in 38th position. Notable drivers who did not make this race in qualifying include the LGR teammates of Haley Deegan and Tanner Gray, who both missed the field in qualifying. Then the 26 truck of Chase Purdy failed to make it. But most importantly, the point leader coming into this race, the number 88 truck of Matt Crafton, did not make the field in qualifying. This is going to be a huge hit for Crafton's chances at winning the regular season championship, because Crafton and that 88 truck will leave this race empty-handed with absolutely no points scored. And with only an 8-point margin above the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed coming into this race, he'll have to hope for Creed to flat-out wreck out of the Chevrolet Accessories 200 to leave this race with the point lead. And we had action early here at Mansfield at the drop of the green flag. The 53 truck of Briscoe gets the jump as the 60 of Casey Mears goes 3 wide down to the inside, and a 4 wide move being made farther back by the 51 truck of Brandon Jones as the 60 truck of Casey Mears takes up third position, and Chase Briscoe will lead lap number 1 here at Mansfield. On lap number 4, we have a bit of a dicey moment on the front straightaway. The 03 truck of Danny Bone goes up the racetrack, almost hits the 5 truck of Jake Finch, turns down away from the 5 and into the 12, sending Christian Eckes down to the inside wall, but Eckes manages to catch it, almost gets turned around by the 25 of Michael Self as he remerges with the field, but surprisingly, no one gets sent around. On lap number 5, the caution flag comes out as the 92 truck tries to send it in very low into turn number 1 as the 41 tries a crossover on him. He clips the right rear quarter panel of the 92 up into the 31 of Ty Dillon, carrying Dawson Cram up into the outside wall with Austin Dario, and the 42 truck of Carson Hocevar could not slow down in time. This is going to be a very big hit for this 41 team of Dawson Cram. They came into this race with a big lead above that top 16 cutoff line. Now, their playoff hopes might just be in jeopardy with a DNF here at Mansfield. On lap number 11, the 38 truck of Todd Gillen gets down to the inside, the 53 of Chase Briscoe, as Briscoe lets the bottom open for the 38 truck. Todd Gillen takes away the race lead here at Mansfield with the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen assuming second position. By lap 17, the 40 truck of Josh Berry has actually raced his way up into 10th position, getting around the 55 truck of Ty Majeski. That also opens up the door on the inside for the 39 truck of Ryan Newman, who is trying to carve his way through the field, but almost gets put 3 wide right here by the 09 truck of Parsons, and he backs out on the exit of turn 2. On lap 19, the 60 truck of Casey Mears gets down to the inside, the 52 of Stuart Friesen. Mears up into second spot, the 60 truck for Germain Racing. On lap number 21, the 24 truck of Justin Haley slides up the racetrack just a little bit on the entry to turn 1. That causes the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed to back off just a little bit. The 5 truck does not get the memo, and Jake Finch almost turns around that 2 truck of Sheldon Creed coming off of turn number 2, but Creed does a fantastic job of keeping that truck together and not pounding that inside wall. Creed right now is not running in contention to really gain too many points on the 88 truck of Crafton. He currently resides in the 32nd spot as you saw a door slam between the 13 and 24 trucks of Justin Haley and Johnny Sauter. Lap 27, the 30 truck of Brendan Poole accidentally makes contact with the 22 truck of Austin Wayne Self coming out of the final turn. That causes Self to take a really shallow entry into the first turn, but then the 30 truck gets into him again, sending him hard up into the outside wall with the 30 truck of Brendan Poole, knocking the 22 truck of Austin Wayne Self out of the race and bringing out the caution flag once again. Let's just say Self was not very satisfied with the driver of the number 30 truck after this one. You can see the first contact looks pretty incidental, but the second one might be just a little bit questionable. It was a bit of a hard situation to avoid, but it definitely does not look good for the driver of the number 30. On the restart on lap 32, the 3rd truck in line is the lap truck of Carson Hocevar. That stalls out some of the field just a little bit and allows Grant Enfinger to stuff it in 3 wide down on the inside. Restarting in 7th position and driving up to 4th by the end of the first lap after the restart. Also another driver who took advantage of the restart was the 39 truck of Ryan Newman as Austin Hill goes 4 wide farther back. Coming down to turn 1 on lap 34, the 60 truck of Casey Mears gets side by side with the 38 and takes the race lead on the exit of turn number 2. Mears now out front. And you can tell down to turn number 3, the 38 truck actually tried to get to the bumper of the 60 of Casey Mears, but actually overdrove the corner in the process and dropped off of the back bumper of the 60. On lap 35, Ben Rhodes trying to make a 4-wide move to the inside of Mayer, Jones, and Barry, but then the 23 truck goes to the inside of the 99 and makes an almost 5-wide move, coming down into turn number 3, taking advantage of that slow lap truck of Carson Hocevar in particular. Then on the exit of turn number 4, the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed almost gets turned around, but right here down into turn number 1, the 51 truck of Brandon Jones tries to get in line and actually clips the 40 of Josh Berry, sending him dead straight up into the outside wall, knocking Josh Berry out of the race here at Mansfield. An awfully hard hit, depressing quite a bit of that safer barrier up on the outside wall. Berry was uninjured, but a huge impact for the driver of the number 40 truck, knocking him out of the Chevrolet Accessories 200. I mean, just look at this angle, straight up into that outside wall, a gigantic hit for that 40 truck. The 51 truck did get collected into it just a little bit, got hit by the 40 as Josh Berry slid down the racetrack, so the 51 truck still got quite a bit of damage out of that, but not nearly what Josh Berry got out of it. Racing back to the caution flag, the 11 truck of Spencer Davis gets into the 42 of Hocevar. Hocevar hits the outside wall, and then this opening right here allows him to ricochet back into traffic. Right down into the 13 truck of Johnny Sauter and into the 31 of Ty Dillon. 2 crashes on the same lap that were not even connected. And that lap was very costly for Nice Motorsports, as both the 40 of Josh Berry and the 42 of Carson Hocevar are out of the race following those 2 incidents. On the restart, the number 38 truck of Todd Gilliland gets down to the inside of the 60 of Casey Mears through turns 3 and 4, and Todd Gilliland retakes the race lead here at Mansfield on the exit of turn number 4. On lap 44, Grant Enfinger gets to the inside of Stuart Friesen down the back straightaway. Off into turn number 3, Enfinger takes up the 3rd position. Lap 48, the 39 truck of Ryan Newman gets moved up off the bottom and actually gets freight trained by several trucks down on the inside, including Ty Majeski, Zane Smith, and Chase Briscoe. This racetrack is certainly a bottom-feeding track. You can work in a second line, but definitely difficult thing to pull off, and really can't be done at this time in the race. It takes about 150 or so laps to run that second groove in. On the last lap of stage number 1, the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland holds the lead by a full 0.8 of a second above the 60 of Casey Mears. Through the final 2 turns, Gilliland onto the front straightaway will claim the stage number 1 victory in the Chevrolet Accessories 200 from Mansfield. Gilliland wins it in the 38 Speedco Ford F-150 for Front Row Motorsports in a fantastic late-stage pass on the 60 truck of Casey Mears. Gilliland might be the one to beat. On lap 52, Todd Gilliland leads most of the field down pit road for the first time of the day. And I say most because Danny Bone, Christian Eckes, and Bone's teammate Brennan Poole will be staying out and assuming 1st through 3rd. A bit of an aggressive pit call right here by these 3 teams, trying to get out front and see what they can do on these old tires to start stage number 2. First car off pit road is Casey Mears leapfrogging the 38 of Todd Gilliland, then Grant Enfinger, Stuart Friesen, and Ty Majeski. On the restart, the only lap truck up in front of the leaders is the 31 truck of Ty Dillon, starting 4th in line because he stayed out. And Dillon accidentally blocks his teammate Casey Mears on the restart, allowing the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland get to his inside and take up 4th position, and actually letting all the trucks on old tires get away. And on the end of lap number 56, the 03 truck of Danny Bone blows the entry to turn number 3 and allows the 12 truck of Christian Eckes to take the race lead away. Very impressive that 12 truck has the pace to stay out front after slapping the inside wall much earlier. You'd think it would have severely at least damaged the toe on that 12 truck. On lap 57, the 39 truck of Ryan Newman goes 4 wide to the inside of Enfinger, Mears, and Ty Dillon. An impressive move right there out of the driver of the number 39 truck. And by lap 59, that number 60 truck of Casey Mears is absolutely getting freight trained, and he has dropped all the way down to 12th position. On lap 60, Danny Bone gets back to the inside of the 12 truck of Christian Eckes, and Bone takes away the race lead once again. On the inside, the 30 truck of Brennan Poole follows suit to take up 2nd, making this a on-point Motorsports 1-2 here at Mansfield so far. On lap 63, the 12 truck of Christian Eckes gets down to the inside, the 30 of Brennan Poole going for 2nd position, but then the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland pressures them 3 wide on the exit of turn number 2, going for 2nd spot, and Gilliland takes the position. But the 12 truck forces the 30 of Brendan Poole wide on the entry to turn number 3. He gets up into the outside wall and ricochets off the outside retaining wall, much like what Carson Hocevar did. Down into the 55 truck of Ty Majeski, who gets finished off by the 39 of Ryan Newman. Then the 30 goes down and hits the 99 of Ben Rhodes. Rhodes had absolutely nowhere to go. Newman does a good job at slowing down to not hit the 30 truck as well. But this incident knocks the number 30 of Brendan Poole out of the race, and this will potentially have a huge impact on their quest of making the playoffs. A great race gone bad for the number 30 team. Then under caution, race leader Danny Bone, Christian Eckes, and the 99 truck of Ben Rhodes, who got damaged in that accident, come down pit road, handing the race lead over to the 38 of Todd Gilliland and the 53 of Chase Briscoe. On lap 70, the 53 truck of Chase Briscoe gets back down to the inside of the 38 of Todd Gilland as the 52 truck runs it wide on the exit of turn 4. 39 of Newman almost gets turned around right there, having to stay off the 52 truck of Friesen as the 53 takes away the race lead. Stuart Friesen up into second position, taking advantage of the 38 truck's mistake. And how about this, lap 73, the 14 truck of Sam Mayer gets to the inside, the 38 of Todd Gilland, and cracks up into the top 5 in the 14 for Tony Stewart Racing. On lap 75, the caution flag comes out once again as the 23 truck gets hard onto the throttle on the exit of turn 2, makes contact with the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs, sending Gibbs around, and fortunately for Gibbs, the field splits him without making any further contact. Rather lucky for the driver of the 18 truck to get out of that mess with almost no additional damage. On lap 77, Chase Briscoe leads the entire lead lap field down pit road. The 2 exceptions to the trucks that all came down pit road are the 03 truck of Danny Bone and 51 of Brandon Jones, staying out on the racetrack on old tires, trying to get that track position and see if it could lead to a race-winning move. We've had some strange pit calls here at Mansfield in the past that have led to victories, including Dennis Setzer's back in 2007 when he opted to not come down pit road at all, and he took home the victory at Mansfield. It was a rather bold strategy, but then again, we ran about 103 or so laps under caution that day due to rain and multiple accidents. But anyway, first truck off of pit road is the 53 of Briscoe, 39 of Ryan Newman, who leapfrogged quite a few trucks out of the pits, then the 55 of Ty Majeski, so they will restart third on back. And on the restart, Chase Briscoe goes 3 wide down to turn number 1, getting around the lap truck of Ben Rhodes and the lead lap truck of Brandon Jones, moving up into second position already. And that move has allowed the 03 truck of Danny Bone to gap the front runners by about half a second already. But at the drop of the green flag, the number 11 truck of Spencer Davis tries to dive it down to turn number 1 as the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek is checking up. The 11 truck slams into the 4 of Nemechek, turning Nemechek up onto the outside wall, bringing out the caution flag the same lap that we get the green. And this time by the 03 truck of Danny Bone takes the opportunity to come down pit road, handing over the lead to the 53 truck of Chase Briscoe. However, the 51 of Brandon Jones has opted to stay out, so he is still on older rubber and will restart in second position behind the lap truck of Ben Rhodes. And that 51 truck is not only running on older rubber, but is also damaged from his run-in with Josh Berry, so he is dropping back extremely quickly, already outside the top 5, just 1 lap after the restart, and that has allowed Chase Briscoe to sort of run away with the race lead. Entering turn number 1, we have a near accident between Parker Kligerman and the 14 truck of Sam Mayer. Kligerman makes contact with the right rear quarter panel of the 14 truck, almost turning Mayer around. He manages to slide just up the racetrack enough to catch that 14 truck without an accident. On lap 89, the 39 truck of Ryan Newman gets to the inside, the 55 of Ty Majeski, taking up second position for DCC Racing. On lap 90, coming out of turn number 4, the 33 truck of Ryan Truex makes contact with the loose number 2 truck of Sheldon Creed, gets turned down into the inside wall with pretty hard front-end contact on the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed. Remember that Creed is trying to take advantage of Matt Crafton's DNQ here at Mansfield. This will be a likely large hit for this number 2 team and will most likely knock a lot of the pace out of that truck. I will say this, though, Creed did a fantastic job keeping that 2 truck running after getting into that inside wall. Surprisingly, didn't stall it. We then get the restart with just 5 laps to go in stage number 2 here in Mansfield, with the 53 truck getting the jump into the first turn above the 39 of Ryan Newman, who is being hounded by that 52 truck of Stuart Friesen. Lap 97, the 55 of Ty Majeski gets to the inside of the 52 through turns 1 and 2 and takes up the 3rd position, which does allow Ryan Newman to get his sights set on the 53 truck of Briscoe and try to run him down for the stage 2 victory. Farther back, we have an intense battle for position as Zane Smith tries to get to the inside of the 13 truck of Johnny Sauter. Sauter closes the door down to turn number 1 as Jet Noland almost went 4 wide on the exit of turn number 2. On lap 98, Justin Haley gets to the inside of the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen, taking up the 5th position in the 24 truck for GMS Racing, making 3 out of the top 5 runners right now, full-time Cup Series regulars. Chase Briscoe, with just a 0.3 of a second gap above the 39 truck of Ryan Newman, leads the field through turns 3 and 4 and onto the front straightaway to win stage number 2 here from Mansfield. Briscoe wins the second stage in the Chevrolet Accessories 200 in the RCA Silverado, holding off the number 39 truck of Ryan Newman by just 0.3 of a second to the Stage 2 victory. And this time, the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland really did not drive his way through the field. He brought that truck home in 7th position and really did not pass that many in this stage. On lap 103, the 51 truck of Brandon Jones have a slow pit stop and just barely beat the pace car to the start-finish line. An incredible job by that 51 team to maximize their time on pit road. They are a very experienced pit crew. It's in fact Kyle Busch's pit crew from the Cup Series side. So they did a fantastic job getting that 51 truck out with some damage repair and still on the lead lap, giving Brandon Jones an opportunity to advance his position. On lap 106, the 39 truck of Ryan Newman gets the jump on the restart and dives down to the inside of Chase Briscoe. Two Indiana natives battling for the race lead here at Mansfield. Through turns 3 and 4, Ryan Newman takes away the race lead as here comes the 55 truck, but the caution flag waves once again. Ryan Newman takes away the race lead back to the caution flag above the 53 truck of Briscoe and the 55 of Majeski in third position. Once again, the number 11 truck of Spencer Davis gets in trouble because he tries to dive bomb the entry to turn number 1 on the restart. The field starts to check up just a little bit. He makes contact with the 23 truck of Brett Holmes, turning himself around and up into the outside wall with the 23 truck. And remember that Holmes is battling for a playoff position right now, so that might be a big hit for them in the point standings. But then under caution, and this is a bit of a strange situation, the 11 truck of Spencer Davis makes contact with the 18 of Ty Gibbs, hitting Gibbs up into the 19 truck of Derek Kraus, actually turning Kraus around. I would not anticipate a suspension coming for the driver, the number 11, but much like what he got at Las Vegas for that crash that he started there, we might be anticipating a monetary fine for Spencer Davis after his actions here at Mansfield. The first time Davis tried this move on John Hunter Nemechek, NASCAR didn't really give it much concern, but the fact that it happened a second time in the exact same way with the same driver made NASCAR kind of turn their heads a little bit, and then the run-in under caution was really what NASCAR did not like. On lap 108, most of the lead lap trucks stay out with the exception of those involved in the crash, such as Spencer Davis and Derek Kraus, but also the 03 truck of Danny Bone comes down pit road once again. This could potentially be a strategy call for that organization. On lap 112, the 53 truck of Chase Briscoe gets back down to the inside, the 39 of Ryan Newman. Coming out of turn number 4, Briscoe is back out front here at Mansfield as we have a battle for third position between Ty Majeski and Sam Mayer. Mayer will take up the spot on the exit of turn 2. But on lap 15, the 55 truck of Ty Majeski gets back to the inside, the 14 of Sam Mayer, and once again takes up that third position. On lap 117, the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs makes contact with the 17 of Taylor Gray coming off of turn 4, almost sending that 17 truck around, but yet again, a great job by the driver, keeping it out of the wall. Lap 119, the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen gets to the inside of Sam Mayer, and coming out of the second turn, Stuart Friesen takes up fourth position. And farther back, we have the 24 truck of Justin Haley gaining time on the race leaders. How about these slight underdog stories? Lap 121, the 25 truck of Michael Self has raced his way up into 8th position, and the number 5 truck of Jake Finch. In his first few Camping World Truck Series starts, he currently resides in 9th position, getting a great run for Phoenix Racing. Lap 122, the 24 truck has just gotten around the 14 of Sam Mayer to move up into 5th position. Lap 130, the 24 truck of Justin Haley continues his march towards the front, getting around the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen and taking up the 4th position. On lap 135, the 12 truck of Christian Eckes, who is one lap down, makes contact with the 98 truck of Grant Enfinger multiple times. Right there, gets into his left rear quarter panel, tries to stay off him, then throttles up on the exit and door slams into the 98 truck and manages to keep that truck going in the right direction. And then finally gets to the inside of Enfinger. Enfinger gives him the line because obviously Grant Enfinger is racing for points, and good points right here in that 98 truck being on the lead lap. You don't want to get turned around by a lap truck and lose a good 20 points in the regular season at this stage, especially running for that regular season title. By lap 140, the number 55 truck of Ty Majeski has started to close the gap up to the race leaders of Chase Briscoe and Ryan Newman. The separation is just 1.5 seconds separating the top three. Coming into lap 141, Sam Mayer almost makes contact with the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen, but they manage to keep it going as they still race for fifth position. On lap 145, the number 53 truck of Chase Briscoe has started to finally get up into heavier lap traffic with names such as John Hunter Nemechek, Derek Kraus, and Ty Gibbs up in front of him. That might open up the opportunity for Ryan Newman to try and close the gap and make a pass. As the 99 truck, the lap truck of Ben Rhodes, actually makes contact with the right rear quarter panel of the 53 of Briscoe. Potentially tried desperately to stay on the lead lap right there. Lap 147, the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen gets freight trained by both Sam Mayer and Todd Gilliland, allowing Mayer to take up the fifth position for Tony Stewart Racing. By lap 50, how about this? Jet Noland is currently running in 13th position in the 45 truck for Nice Motorsports. He's had great runs all season long in his limited starts for this organization, and once again, just clicking off all the laps. When you're a driver like this, you're just trying to get seat time. Don't do something crazy and get wrecked out early. And Jet Nolan's done a great job at just keeping his trucks in these races, and right now it's paying off for him with a potential opportunity at getting a top 10 here at Mansfield. On lap 158, race leader Chase Briscoe is racing very hard with the lap truck of Jesse Little, slides up the racetrack and actually lets Ryan Newman close the gap, but Newman gets boxed in by the number 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek. Newman actually closed the gap by about half a second that lap, but getting checked up by the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek forced Newman to drop back by a couple more tenths of a second, and Newman really could not fully capitalize on the 53 truck's mistake. By lap 160, the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland is now taken up the 5th position by getting around the 14 of Sam Mayer. On lap 162, the lap trucks and teammates of John Hunter Nemechek and Ty Gibbs make contact on the exit of turn number 4, and Gibbs does a good job at saving that truck and not going around and into the inside wall on the exit of turn number 4 right there. On lap 170, that 39 truck of Newman is still trying to gain on that 53 truck of Briscoe. They're more or less playing cat and mouse right now in lap traffic. The gap separating first and second is a little bit below half a second, so one mistake out of that 53 truck will bring Ryan Newman back up into the mix, and about 1 second behind the race leader is the 55 truck of Ty Majeski, who runs in 3rd position. So it's still a 3-man race for the win here at Mansfield, because odds are they will not have to come down pit road again. Camping World Truck Series, we have a habit of bringing very hard tires to these short track races in particular so they can last a long time. And that's what we're seeing here today at Mansfield. I doubt they're going to have to come down pit road anymore in the Chevrolet Accessories 200. You got what you got, and you got to try and keep your tires together down to the finish. It makes you wonder, though, if Briscoe might be burning them up just a little bit too much, trying to gap that 39 truck of Newman. Maybe Newman will use that veteran experience to hang back and then make a charge on the 53 late in the going. And by the way, through lap traffic, this 24 truck of Justin Haley has gained about 2 seconds on the race leader in the last 20 laps. The gap separating first to fourth now is about 2.5 seconds. Justin Haley could potentially even take home the victory here at Mansfield if he can take advantage of the front runner's mistakes in lap traffic. On lap 180, the gap separating first and second has been extended out to 1 second now between Ryan Newman and Chase Briscoe, as Briscoe has had a bit of a gap in lap traffic, now running down the 87 truck of Timothy Peters, who gives him the inside. And how about this on lap 183, the 75 truck of Parker Kligerman currently resides in 8th position. This organization has really started to get some momentum going, and they might be legitimate playoff contenders starting at Darlington. And by lap 184, the 55 truck of Ty Majeski has started to hound that 39 truck of Ryan Newman for 2nd position, as Newman has actually been gapped now by 1.1 seconds by the 53 truck of Briscoe, as we now just have 15.5 laps to go here at Mansfield. Lap 192, the 53 truck gets into heavy lap traffic with his teammate Ryan Truex and last season's champion Sheldon Creed up in front of him. That allows Ryan Newman to massively close the gap on the number 53 truck of Chase Briscoe, setting us up for a 2-man race for the victory here in the Chevrolet Accessories 200 as Ty Majeski has started to drop off. By lap 195, the 14 truck of Sam Mayer has now gotten around the 38 of Todd Gilliland once again to take up the 5th position. And so now Ryan Newman has closed the gap up to the 53 truck of Briscoe, down to just 0.4 of a second, separating the top two runners with just 5 laps to go here at Mansfield. Newman is within striking distance. But then on lap 198, Ryan Newman takes a wide arc down into turn number 1 and actually lets the lap truck of Sheldon Creed get down to his inside. And this massively hurts Newman's entry down into turn number 3 and allows Sheldon Creed to almost get around him, opening up the gap for the number 53 truck of Briscoe. And Briscoe has his teammate now of Ryan Truex, hounding the 39 truck of Newman down on the inside, opening up the gap with now just a lap and a half to go. Coming out of turns 3 and 4, Chase Briscoe now sees the white flag here at Mansfield as the gap back to second has been extended out to more than 1 second, thanks mostly to his teammate Ryan Truex. Down into turn 3 for the final time, Briscoe, out of the final few turns, dominates here at Mansfield and takes home the victory in the Chevrolet Accessories 200. Chase Briscoe wins here at Mansfield Motorsports Park in the number 53 RCA Chevrolet, taking home his first Truck Series win in 3 years. And so with Crafton's DNQ here at Mansfield and Sheldon Creed at least finishing the race, Creed has surpassed Matt Crafton for the point lead, gaining a full 16 points here at Mansfield. Creed holds the lead by now 8 points above the 88 truck of Crafton. So we still have an absolute battle on our hands moving forward. Ben Rhodes still sets third in points, 33 points out of the lead. Ty Gibbs fourth, 45 points out. Grant Enfinger moves back up into fifth position, 50 points out of the lead. Casey Mears moves up to sixth, 53 points out. Christian Eckes drops down 2 spots in points to seventh, 55 points out of the lead. Parker Kligerman moves up 1 spot to eighth, 64 points out of the lead. Ryan Truex picks up another spot as well, up to ninth, 80 points out of the point lead. And Dawson Cram, with his early DNF here at Mansfield, drops down 2 spots in the point standings, down to 10th, 84 points out of the point lead. Also keep in mind that we have 12 trucks currently within 100 points of the point lead. So a lot of things could change from now to Daytona. In your playoff standings, Creed, Crafton, Rhodes, Eckes, Austin Hill, Ty Gibbs, Enfinger, Casey Mears, Ryan Truex, and Friesen are all locked into the playoffs via their wins so far this year. Obviously, Chase Briscoe's win does not count toward the playoffs because he is a full-time Cup Series regular. Parker Kligerman has now assumed best of the rest position in the playoff standings, 55 points above the cutoff line. Dawson Cram's DNF drops him to 35 points above. Ty Dillon sets 26 points above. Timothy Peters 25 above. Brett Holmes now 15 points above the cutoff line, and Austin Theriault 15 points as well. John Hunter Nemechek in the 4 truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports, not having the season that most of us anticipated. We expected quite a few wins to start the year already, as we have now completed race 18, which is halfway through the season. You would have expected Nemechek to have amassed at least a couple wins so far this year. So far, he only came close at Nashville, and he still sets outside of the playoffs with just a few races remaining until the playoffs begin at Darlington. Ty Majeski is just 21 points out of making the playoffs in that 55 truck. Zane Smith, 28 points on the outside looking in. And Brennan Poole, the NASCAR Cup Series Geico 500 winner from earlier this season, sets 29 points out of making the playoffs currently because of his DNF here at Mansfield. And next up is my personal favorite segment of the show, Q&A. Hello everyone and welcome back to Post Tech. Before we get on to the Q&A segment, I gotta give you the disclaimer. If I mispronounce any names or handles, I do apologize, but it's bound to happen. So let's jump into question number 1 from NASCAR fan 88 official. Are any new companies interested in joining NASCAR? And to be honest with you, right now it looks like there's more or less no new companies that are interested. Recurring companies, ones that maybe left the sport and are coming back potentially, like a Pepsi, or Lowe's, Home Improvement, something like that, maybe Home Depot even. Companies of that sort may come back into our sport with a more emphasized presence than I guess you could say they have now, because right now both of those companies are more or less out of the sport. And if they are still in the sport, it would be in the sense of an associate or even a contingency or something like that, like a B-post decal. So maybe in a more expanded state, you would see a company like Lowe's or a Pepsi come back, maybe even Ray Bestis brakes, something like that, maybe more influence from Interstate Batteries as well on a race car. But really no new companies, from what I know of, are looking to get involved right now. That could potentially change. Most likely more involvement from Alvin Kamara's The Big Squeezy. That might be something that would have more influence in the coming years. But I do not really see too many new companies coming into our sport. Manufacturer-wise, we might get another old manufacturer like a Dodge in the future, or a new, say, Honda, something like that, but really not too much new interest, just recurring interest to keep the sport strong. Although, here is one company that I've heard coming back that might intrigue many. Reese's, under the Hershey's banner, may be represented on some of the Menards cars this season because of their whole partnership there. They sell Reese's at Menards, so maybe expect Brandon Jones or someone like that to run a Reese's paint scheme. But beyond that, I don't see too many new companies getting involved in our sport for the foreseeable future. We might get more with more unique team owners. If more teams get founded from not competitors, but people outside of our sport. We had Michael Jordan and Pitbull come in recently. We might get more people such as that who would bring in new interest and companies that aren't currently in our sport into it, but I don't see too much changing for the future. Is there any scheduled changes for 2022? The answer is yes. Right now, NASCAR is looking to have a race at least in the Pacific Northwest market, something like Portland International Raceway, and also we have the changes to Pocono. We're going to run the short track and the road course for the doubleheader next season. That's confirmed. And we also are likely going to see another dirt race next season, most likely from Knoxville. That's my personal bet of where it's going to be. So we are going to see quite a few schedule changes. There's still some unannounced stuff, some races that NASCAR still has listed as TBA to my knowledge. Also the All-Star race, we don't know where that's going to be yet. So there's a lot of schedule changes that are going to happen for 2022, but we do not know them as of yet. And it looks like right now Palm Beach International Raceway might be off the schedule for next season. We need to see what NASCAR is going to do about that. And also, Circuit of the Americas, their spot on the schedule is in jeopardy as well. So there's a lot of unknowns right now because we're only in the middle of the summer. But once we start to get to near the end of the year, maybe a month after even, we'll start to really know what NASCAR's plan is for 2022. And then the third question, could there be any chance of the Homestead Roval being used for a points-paying race in Cup? I kind of doubt it. It's a fairly good layout, but it's mainly reserved for, club racing and Trans Am style racing. So I don't think that NASCAR wants to bring that layout of Homestead up to, say, a Cup-level race, because, quite frankly, we have enough road courses to where we wouldn't exactly need it. And Homestead as an oval is one of the best racetracks we go to. So I don't really see that happening. It's a good racetrack by all means, but I just doubt that sort of event happening in the future. And now the second set of questions from Switchblade is Joe Gibbs looking at having Ty Gibbs skip the Xfinity Series and jump to Cup full-time next season. Follow-up, will Ty make any additional Cup starts this season? So I kind of doubt Ty Gibbs running any more Cup starts this year, unless it would potentially come with, say, Gaunt or someone like that. Potentially 2311, but I kind of doubt that. Joe is probably going to give Ty a development program where they're going to sacrifice Rookie of the Year honors next year in the Cup Series and develop him in a multitude of races, kind of like Roger Penske did with Ryan Newman, with the exception of they reserved Newman to just a few starts in 2001 so he could keep Rookie of the Year honors for 2002. But Ty Gibbs will likely run a relatively decent amount of races in 2022 in the Cup Series side, maybe more like 15 or so spread out throughout the season. A lot like what Tyler Ankrum did in 2020 to prep himself for this year going full-time. So Ty Gibbs is going to run the full Xfinity Series schedule next year most likely. He's already a two-time winner in the series anyway. And then he's probably going to jump to Cup full-time for 2023, is my bet. At least it currently looks like that's how they're going to develop Ty Gibbs. But he has a tremendous amount of talent, and I would expect him to run up front in his Cup Series starts next season. Whether it be limited or full-time program, Ty Gibbs is going to be a front runner. Because what they could potentially do, Carl Edwards skipped the Xfinity Series because Jeff Burton got released from Roush. They could do a similar thing with Ty Gibbs. They could just skip that Xfinity Series level in a full-time basis, skip it, and go straight to Cup, and I'm sure he'd run just fine because Edwards ran fantastically in his first season at Roush Fenway, full season starting in 2005, and even the latter half of 2004 ran great. Ty Gibbs is that kind of driver who I think you could give him the Cup ride already, and I think he'd run fairly well with it. He didn't really get a shot at proving himself at Pocono because of all the gigantic wrecks, so that kind of kept Ty Gibbs from showing off what he's really made of. But Ty may potentially get a full-time Cup ride next season. Really all depends on whether or not Kyle Busch goes Lone Ranger and goes to KBM. That's more or less the deciding factor right now. But Ty Gibbs, I personally believe, has the talent to be a Cup Series driver already. So we might need to watch out for him next season. Question number 3 from RFJ, could we see a reconfiguration and renovations of Pocono for safety so NASCAR doesn't have to remove a track with good racing off its schedules, avoid making the same mistake with Chicagoland? So right now, we already know that Pocono Raceway will run the short track and road course next season on the Cup Series schedule. They're going to, at least right now, allegedly, they are debating renovating the 2.5-mile tri-oval in some way or another. We currently have no idea what their plan is for 2022 or 2023 or beyond, how they're going to renovate the racetrack and make it safer. Hopefully they fix turn 1 at the very least, that funnel into the corner, which seems to create gigantic wrecks going off of dual 1. However, we don't have to worry about that quite yet because we're going to be using a different layout both times of Pocono Raceway, the short track on the front stretch and then both road courses. The north and south connected layout is what we're going to be using. So right now, the Igdalski and Matoli families don't need to worry about the 2.5-mile tri-oval. It's not really going to be used next year, which is going to be a little strange. But Pocono will likely be doing reconfigurations of the racetrack in the future to get Cup Series racing back on the Super Speedway, but right now I have no information of what they actually intend on doing. So we'll keep you updated on this situation as it evolves. And now, the final set of questions from Switchblade. In the playoffs, could a scenario occur where if a playoff driver fails to qualify, their team puts them in a qualified car and transfers sponsorship to that car for the race? Example, Kevin Harvick in the playoffs fails to qualify for the Roval, and Cole Custer, who's not a playoff driver, does qualify, so SHR pulls Custer from the car and puts Harvick in with his sponsorship. So NASCAR kind of already got around that in many ways. What happens nowadays when a driver has a driver swap? It has to be due to a direct emergency or an injury. NASCAR will not allow you to just pull a qualified driver from their seat for no reason. Obviously, you could technically have a loophole, I guess, if Cole Custer was, say, injured and was able to qualify the car. Theoretically, you could take him out of the car and put Harvick in the car. However, the points would be scored to Custer. So it really wouldn't benefit Kevin Harvick at all, even if Harvick, got in that car to run the race. But nowadays, we don't even let the driver qualify if it's in that sort of circumstance. If they're injured enough to where they can't run the full race, they probably shouldn't be in the race car at all, quite frankly. So now we have to have a reserve driver qualify and run the car instead of have someone like Cole Custer show up and score points, because it's not exactly a safe practice anyway. Having an injured driver qualify the car even for one lap, it's not exactly the safest process. So NASCAR has kind of thought their way around that by making it to where you have to have a certain emergency scenario to swap a driver out of a car. It has to be either for a family emergency or a driver is injured. And I don't think that they'll let a situation like this ever happen with the way that we currently have this set up, because that's the only way that you can pull a driver from a car. You could theoretically withdraw from a race. That may potentially, say, if Harvick fails to qualify by one spot and Cole Custer gets in by one spot above Harvick, I guess it's theoretically possible that they could withdraw the 41 car and bring the 4 car into the field, but that's a dirty process anyway. But that is theoretically legal. They could pull that off. I don't think it would make any sponsors of the 41 team happy whatsoever, but I think that it is possible that that could happen, but this exact scenario really could not occur with the current way NASCAR has the rules set up. And so, folks, that pretty much does it for episode number 16 of Post Tech. We hope that you have enjoyed it. The next time you'll be seeing us, we'll be back at Mansfield Motorsports Park for the NASCAR Cup Series race, the Chevrolet Accessories 400 on the .44-mile bull ring in Ohio. It should absolutely be a very fun event. That racetrack is a bit of a crash magnet, so expect quite a few cautions, but we're going to have tire strategy all throughout, most likely beating and banging all through the race. It's going to be certainly a fun one. It's going to shake the playoff running grid as we approach that regular season championship race at Daytona. And so, folks, we'll be seeing you out at Mansfield, Ohio for the Chevrolet Accessories 400.